Hey, what's going on, everybody? Justin here at Triumphal Reads, and in this video, we're going to be doing my tentative sort of June TBR. And this time, unlike last month, it's actually somewhat on time, I guess, at the beginning of the month, like it probably should be. Because, yeah, my May TBR was pretty ridiculous considering it came out like on the 21st or 22nd, something like that, of the month of May. But anyways, I got about 10 or 11 books here that I want to try and get through at least most of them in the month of June. And what's kind of interesting about this month is I'm in like a rare form for some reason, at least at right now at the beginning of the month, where I'm in the mood for reading actually quite a bit of like fiction and fantasy and stuff, which is definitely different for me. Usually I predominantly read the nonfiction stuff and then kind of have like a side helping of the fantasy and all that. But I only have, let's see, I think 4 nonfiction books, and some of them are pretty short. But yeah, I guess I'm just in the mood for fiction this month. So yeah, let's just go ahead and get started. And I'm going to start with a NetGalley book that I obviously don't physically have. We're going to start with the 4 nonfiction books. And the first one is going to be The Lure of the Ring: Power, Addiction, and Transcendence in Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings. And this is by Alan Strachan and Janet Coster. And I don't know, this just like looked like a really cool, I'm not even really sure what it's about, but it's kind of like looking into sort of the philosophy and stuff of Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings. I really enjoy Tolkien, as you guys probably know from like some of my other stuff that I've done. But yeah, this is, I guess, is looking at some of the different sort of metaphysical concepts and psychological concepts of obviously like power and addiction and stuff. In I I assume mostly just the Lord of the Rings and everything. But it just sounds like really cool. And it's a fairly short-ish read, I think, if I remember from when I looked at it. But yeah, it just looked like kind of like a blending of Tolkien and philosophy and psychology, which I think is really cool. So yeah, that's what I'm going to go with for my first nonfiction read of the month. All right, next up, I've been totally neglecting all my very short introductions. I haven't read one in quite a while, so I'm going to go with another philosoph. I was gonna say another philosophy. No, well, yeah, never mind. Totally just messed my own head up right then. But I'm going with another philosophical sort of work, and it's Epicureanism, a very short introduction. And this one is by Catherine Wilson. And generally, I do enjoy these very short introductions. I've been hitting some, having pretty good luck with the ones I've been picking out recently. And obviously, this one is dealing with the ancient philosophical school of Epicureanism, obviously founded by Epicurus and everything. But I want to see, basically look into it a little bit more detail to see how far, kind of like when people think of Epicureanism, they kind of usually think of sort of hedonism, which is not really what the ancient school of that Epicurus taught was really about. From what I understand, I think it's more or less the sort of just trying to have the absence of pain and everything, and vices, and that would lead you to having a more pleasurable and just like happier life and everything, rather than seeking out all the like the indulgences and decadence and pleasures that kind of hedonism is associated with. I want to see if that's really, I guess, accurate. And like I said, I used to read about one very short introduction a month, but like I've totally fallen off that bandwagon this month. But hopefully with Epicureanism, I can reverse that trend going forward. All right, next up is I think I picked this up at a library sale. It's The Greek and Roman World by W.G. Hardy. And the reason I'm intrigued by it is it deals with Greece and Rome, but it's literally like 100 pages or 150 pages or something. I don't know how you deal with Greece and Rome, with pretty much all the cultural and philosophical and just material life and everything, because it does seem to have a lot of sort of the social history in it just from like flipping through it. So yeah, I'm kind of curious just to see how quickly it goes, if that makes sense. Like I said, I just don't see how you put the entirety of Greece and Rome in one little combined volume, I guess. But yeah, that's sort of what intrigued me. Kind of is like, even like the cover has like sort of that minimalist approach and everything, so I thought that was kind of neat. But yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and read this, hopefully in like maybe one sitting since it's so short, if it's enjoyable, and see how it goes from there. Alright, and then the last nonfiction book is a book that I was sent to from the publisher, and it's The Discovery of Troy and Its Lost History by Bernard Jones. And I guess this book, what intrigued me is it deals with sort of a different approach about the Trojan War and where it was located. Um, Most scholars do believe that Troy is like there's the actual archaeological site of Troy. That's sort of where, if the Trojan War was fought, that's where it was fought in Anatolia, which would be Turkey today. Uh, but anyways, from the pitch that I was given, was that Troy there is another possible location that fits the evidence just as well as that site in another location, which really intrigued me because I've heard theories like this a couple of times, but never, I guess, given it that much thought. So yeah, I'm definitely interested in reading through it, and it's got a lot of maps and plates, and it looks like it has a lot of cited source material and everything. So I thought that was really cool, and I'm always just excited to get like a history book, a solicitation, I guess, is that what the being sent history books. I guess that's kind of like the aim of the game for me, anyways. But yeah, like I said, I just thought it was like a really cool concept for a book. I'm not sure if I'm going to end up agreeing with everything, just because from everything I've done, like everything does seem to fit the evidence pretty well for Anatolian or Asia Minor Turkish site for the site of Troy. But anyways, like I said, I'm always open to new ideas and looking up different things, different what paths of research and stuff, and see what other people come up with. So yeah, there's The Discovery of Troy and Its Lost History. Alright, so those are the nonfiction books that I want to read in the month of June. And other than that, I picked up just a bunch of different fantasy books. I have so many series that I've either started and not finished, but I don't really want to finish them. And I'm like, oh, I don't really want to start a new series when I have like 20 to finish as it is. But, you know, I did a mix and match of a couple different things, and actually the first one is going to be another NetGalley book, and this one is Ingre, Slave of New Sylria by Ian St. Martin, and this is one of the books in the Primarch series, which is part of the Warhammer 40k like universe and lore, everything like that. If you guys have been following the channel, you know I've been reading a lot of Horus Heresy books lately, which is essentially Warhammer 30k, or like kind of a prequel to all the 40k stuff. And there's another spin-off series to the Horus Heresy, which is the Primarchs, and I assume there's going to be one for each of the 18 extant Primarchs during the era. And this one obviously is dealing with Ingre, who, as a little tidbit, is like probably my least favorite Primarch of them all, which is partly why I wanted to read this one. The reason I don't like him is he's basically like rage and anger personified. Literally, he's seeing red just all the time, and part of it is not necessarily his fault, since he sort of grew up as a slave pit fighter, kind of like gladiatorial, like pit fighting type of guy. So all he knows basically is just like violence and anger, and that is just how he approaches everything. But like I said, he's probably like my least favorite of all the Primarchs. But I'm hoping this book maybe illuminates some stuff on Ingre, so that I understand him a little bit better, I guess, and how he fits better into the Horus Heresy. So yeah, that's why I'm going with Ingre, Slave of New Sylria. Alright, so for some other stuff, I want to start a new series, just, you know, because I don't have a good reason, but it's a book I've had for a long time, and it's Blackwinged by Ed McDonald, and this is the first book of the Raven Mark. I've just heard really good things about it, more so like last year, and its sequel, which I can't even remember off the top of my head. But from what I understand, it's pretty grimdark, which is probably like one of my, probably my second favorite like subgenre of fantasy. And I've just heard really good things about it, and especially from other authors that enjoy talking about this book, which is why I picked it up in the first place. So I pretty much know nothing about it, except that I guess the setting is in some place called like the Misery, which is just like this really awful, just terrible landscape or something. I'm not 100% sure, but it sounded interesting. And then the only other thing I know is that there's like an engine with a capital E, like a god engine or something. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head that either. So it must have like some kind of little steampunk element too, which I think is really cool. So that's why I'm gonna go with Blackwinged. Right, for another one is T.H. White's The Once and Future King, and I'm going to be reading the third book in this cycle, which is the Illmade Knight, which deals primarily with Sir Lancelot. And T.H. White's Once and Future King is sort of an Arthurian cycle dealing from the first book, The Sword in the Stone, which is sort of Merlin's tutelage of King Arthur, and we have the Queen of Air and Darkness, which is when Arthur is sort of establishing his legitimacy and the beginning of his reign as king. And then there's the Illmade Knight, and then the Candle of the Wind. The Illmade Knight, I know, does deal primarily with Lancelot, like I said before, who, like I said, I'm not super hardcore into like Arthurian stuff. Like my friend Tim, he's like obsessed with the Holy Grail and King Arthur and Arthurian everything pretty much. But I have been really enjoying this series. The first two books, I'm giving 5 stars to both of them. There's a lot of sort of philosophical stuff sort of going on, sort of in the background and the conversations that happen in the books. So I've just been really enjoying it. I like the sort of, I don't know, the way that T.H. White creates his characters. The very, I don't even know how you say it. Like kind of like whimsical, but in a like they're serious and whimsical at the same time. And I've just been highly enjoying it. So that's why I'm going with the third book out of 4 in the Once and Future King. And I guess technically there is a book 5 that was published posthumously, but I'm not exactly sure if that's really part of the cycle or not. It's called like the Book of Merlin, but I don't know. Anyways, let's go with the next one. And it's The Free by Brian Ruckley. I'm not gonna lie, the only reason I bought it was because I just really liked the guy's armor on the cover, and it was pretty cheap wherever I got it. I can't remember if it was a library sale or Better World Books or something. But what I know about this is essentially it's a standalone fantasy novel, which it's a standalone heroic fantasy novel, which I haven't read hardly any standalones, and I kind of want to start getting into them because then I won't feel so bad not finishing series because they're standalones, if that makes sense. But I know really nothing about it except that it's sort of like a mercenary band, which I do enjoy, because we got the Black Company up there, which is like one of my favorite fantasy series that I'm still continuing on. So I'm hoping it's kind of got like grim, dark, bleak vibes like that, since it's dealing with like a mercenary band or something that's like past its prime or something, or getting it back together. I'm not exactly sure, because like I said, I did buy it largely just because of the guy's sort of armor on the cover. But I do enjoy heroic fantasy, and I'm hoping this one turns out really good. And then when I finish it, I'll have a whole series done. Or I guess I technically won't have a series done, but I won't have another series to add to my list of unfinished series. All right, and then if I have time, I want to read one more big fantasy book, and I got 2 selections. I probably won't read both of them, but hopefully I can pick one or the other. And I have The Great Hunt, which is the second book in the Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan. And then I have The Price of Valor by Django Wexler, which is the third book in the Shadow Campaigns series. I'm probably leaning more toward Price of Valor because that's definitely a series that I at least potentially could finish, since there's only 5, and I have book number 4 waiting as well. Whereas The Great Hunt, or The Wheel of Time, has like 14 and a half books, and this is only the second one, and they're all like this, pretty much. But I'm not exactly sure which one I'm gonna read. I think I am leaning towards Price of Valor right now, and that's partly too because it's Flintlock fantasy, which is my favorite subgenre of fantasy. This one is actually interesting because it's set like even earlier than sort of a Napoleonic era. It's very, very early, where it's actually more muskets and magic, where rifles are very rare during this era that the Shadow Campaigns takes place in. I thought the second book in the series wasn't as good as the first one, but I do believe it's set up this third book to do really well. So I think I'm just gonna go ahead and go with the Price of Valor. And I guess theoretically, if I finish all of that, I can start The Great Hunt, but I probably wouldn't count on it. So those are the books that I would like to read in the month of June. Tell me what you guys think about any of them, or if you've read any of these authors before. Leave some comments down below. Also, leave some comments regarding what the book you're most looking forward to reading in the month of June is. I always enjoy reading people's different recommendations and what they're excited to be reading in the upcoming months. So yeah, just leave some comments down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, all that good stuff. And always remember, whatever you end up reading this month, read victoriously.